Alright. Hello everyone, welcome to The Lost Art of Time with Chewy! Alright, so I do start this panel out with a little bit of a presentation. There are more people who just entered. I have one hank of rope left. Who am I throwing it at? Anybody? It's about as good as I can eat at this point. Alright. And yes, I do take count. But at the same time, if I don't take my mask off, most of you guys won't be able to understand a word I say.
Here, we'll grab some water. Be right back.
Sounds good. Alright. While Chewy's wandering off to get water, we're going to quick go through what you're not going to learn here. So, things you're not going to learn here. You are not going to learn how to talk to somebody you are attracted to. Just not going to work, guys. You are not going to learn how to sex. I know. We are also not going to teach anything about suspension. I've been asked in the past to at least briefly talk about it. I have done a little bit of suspension work, but it is not something that, especially for like a beginner class, that I would even want to go into. And finally, we're not going to teach how to lasso in here, because honestly, I don't really know how, and this rope don't really work well for it, from what I've been told. So, that being said, what you are going to learn, consent. Now this panel actually was originally created for a cosplay themed convention, which works here well too, but it's not just for cosplay. I mean, it's for a lot of things. We are going to talk about negotiation, because there'll be some negotiation that happens. We are going to talk about safety. That is a big thing here. We're actually going to talk about aftercare, because I'm sure a lot of people don't always even know what that means. And then I'm just going to teach you guys a few knots while I tie Chewy up.
Hello. Yeah, we agreed. Most of my knot time's from firefighting, so I can't actually use that on people.
That's not true.
Yeah, well, a lot of them are grabbing one specific spot and pulling really tightly.
And?
Yeah.
We'll talk tomorrow. Alright, one of the things I've learned through doing these panels is there are a few things that people don't actually know what I'm talking about when I use the words. So, we're going to go through a couple of words real quick. First is going to be top. That's going to be the person doing the tying. The other is going to be bottom. That's the person getting tied up. The next kind of couple of words are actually going to be related to the rope itself. The first is going to be the bite. And that is literally going to be the chunk of the rope. Now it says it's any part of the rope between the two ends. When I refer to the bite, I'm usually going to refer to a chunk that's folded over. Most of the times when I do tying, it's already been folded over once. The cross point is going to be a place where the rope crosses to begin to form to make a loop. So if you were going to be tying an actual loop, before you actually tie the loop itself, that's going to be your cross point. So it makes a cross. Makes sense, right? The loop itself is when the bite becomes a knot. So when we go like that, there's a loop. The tail is going to be the opposite end. That's the part that's getting knotted. There's going to be what's called whipping. I put this one in here because I thought it was fun. It doesn't actually mean what you all think. There are different ways to make sure that your rope doesn't fray at the end. And whipping is just one of those ways. It's one of my preferred ways because I think it looks pretty. Keep in mind, most of what I end up teaching here today is because I think it looks pretty. If you don't think it looks pretty too, I'm sorry. Finally, the last one is shibari, which is just a form of our artistic rope bondage, and that's pretty much what I practice is shibari. Not necessarily looking to, I guess inflict damage or anything like that. I'm looking to make something look pretty, at the same time, offer restriction and other parts that go with it. Alright, safety. Rule of one, and I literally say this is the most important rule. Doesn't matter if you are the top or the bottom, you are the one who is responsible for managing your own risk. Bondage is never risk-free. There are ways to reduce and manage the risk, but it is never risk-free. So Chewy, are you okay with that?
I run into burning buildings as a side job. This is like, I'm good. But I do know a lot of people who are very nervous about starting bondage and stuff. And for them, it's very good to talk about where they want a situation to go before they get into it.
And we're going to get into that in a minute. Second rule of safety, know thyself. Please play within your limits. Tops, also remember when your bottoms are bound, only you can help manage their risk. So when you've got somebody who's tied up, you're kind of responsible for that person. Next, respect and care for your bottom. Hi, Chewy.
Hello.
Let's be honest, you have no power as a top until your bottom tells you it's okay. Chewy, is it going to be okay for me to tie you up here?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. You want to make sure you know your bottom's limits and respect it. So, Chewy, do you have any positions that it's hard for you to hold, or any injuries I should know about, or anything, or any areas that I shouldn't go near?
Not that I know of.
All right. So then you'll make sure to let me know if we get. Yep, that sounds good.
I'm flexible, but sometimes they'll tie you in a spot and you suddenly go, ooh, that doesn't flex right.
Yeah.
And everybody's different, so learning that is more a matter of doing and experimenting than anything else and communicating with your partner.
This next one, actually, the last time I gave this panel, the individuals that I was working with wanted me to make sure it was one that I stressed big time, and that's never, ever, ever leave somebody in bondage alone. You can, as we call it, mind fuck with them, but never actually leave them. That is more dangerous than anything else you could do. And finally, your scene's not over until the bottom is completely untied and aftercare is received. So, Chewy, what kind of aftercare do you think you're going to need here?
I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah?
In my relationship, aftercare is kind of just, chilling with each other for a little bit before we do anything else, just kind of existing with each other, chatting a little bit afterwards. It's very casual. And I know some people who need like a lot of cuddles or shower together or watch a movie or something, but
I need hugs.
hugs aren't good.
You'll at least get hugs, because I'll need hugs. It's weird. You get into this like mindset whether or not you're the person being tied up or tied, and yeah, it just gets weird.
Everybody's different with what they need, so it varies from partner to partner.
So this gets back into negotiation. So, talked a little bit about medical issues. You don't seem to think you have any here we'll have to worry about. Something else you're probably going to want to know about is the level of sexual activity. Are you looking for something that's just very, casual, high level, I'm just going to tie you up? I mean, we're kind of doing a panel here, so I don't see it going much past that in this case. But, I mean, it really, really does depend. Another thing to keep in mind is marks. I'll be honest, the last person I tied up, I did leave some, apparently, as they put it, lovely rope marks on their wrists. That can be an issue for some people. Yeah, this will, I'll let you guys know right now, this will be the first time I've ever tied somebody up in a fursuit. So this will be new for me. Also personal interaction. Do you want this to be more personalized, or is it going to be more of a distant type thing? Is it more of you just want someone to tie you up to get you into that headspace and then that's kind of it? Or is this something that's going to be more, for each person? Basically, what does the bottom enjoy? So any kind of objectification, humiliation? I get the impression you might be a little bit of a brat.
Surprisingly not.
Really?
I've been considered too good of a boy.
Ooh. Another thing to ask is, how does your bottom want to be untied? They want to be untied slowly, sexually, or is it, again, more of a distant thing, kind of going that route? Again, this is more of a demonstration, so we're going to keep things kind of clean.
It says 18 plus, but that doesn't, 18
Yeah.
plus here is very different than 18 plus at your condo.
And finally, again, we were talking earlier about aftercare thought, how long is it going to be needed for, things like that. Any questions so far, guys? I know you're all waiting to get into us tying knots, aren't you? All right. So for this demonstration, we're going to go over a couple different knots. Hi, Wolf Tag.
Come back.
All right, we're going to talk about an overhand knot, a square knot. We're going to talk about lark's heads. The lark's head's actually going to be used when we extend the rope. We're going to do a half hitch, a single column, a double column, and then extending the rope. So this is kind of where, when people get rope, that they get to kind of play along a little bit with. We're going to go through a couple things before I start tying Jimmy up. Now, your overhand knot. Who here knows how to tie their shoes? Great, that means most of you know how to do the overhand knot. You know, just the simple, literally, the shoelace tying knots.
I still tie my shoes on.
I mean, I watched SpongeBob do it.
Do a loop and pull.
So you start with, pretty simple. It's just, you cross it over because it's overhand, underneath.
When you're doing this, you want to make sure you're using both sides of the rope, not just like grabbing one side of it and doing it all via that. You want it to be with both.
I mean, you can do it the other way if you're just practicing.
Oh yeah, but
And then there's some things
it feels different. There's a certain feel to it. Doing a figure eight on a bite with just one rope versus the double is a very different feel.
Then the next one we're going to do is a square knot. Square knot is really easy. Start with an overhand knot, and then you're going to tie a second overhand knot. Now, I'm hopefully going to do this wrong. Nope, I did it right again. Dang it!
Cursed by your own success.
I literally keep trying to do this backwards so that way you guys can see what it doesn't look like, but this is your square knot, and look, you can see it makes a square. Now, it is important that when you do a square knot that you get this lovely square kind of feature to it, because if you don't, that's called a granny knot. Let's see if I can do this. And a granny knot is bad. So this is what you refer to as a granny knot. So, no, it's more like, no, that is a granny knot. And what can happen with a granny knot is if you tie it and then somebody either wiggles, or especially if you're using it for suspension, the knot can fail. So, yeah, you don't want that to happen at all.
How was that tied again?
So the overhand or the granny? The square or the granny?
Square knot.
So square knot, you start with the overhand. Really, just take, like you're tying your shoelaces. You get a little knot. Then for the square knot, you basically are going to tie another one, just like that, and it makes a square. So it's 2 overhand knots to make a square knot.
Yeah, you got it.
So then the next one we've got is a lark's head. And I use a lark's head to extend rope. So you'll see me using this, later. So you got your end of the rope. Sure, you want to hold on to that? So you have your bite here. To do a lark's head, I just simply take 2 of my fingers, put them in, rotate down, pull it through. So watch it again. 2 fingers in, rotate down, kind of pinch them together, pull it through. It almost makes like a little bit of a lasso there. Kind of tough. That make sense?
Maybe I can't see it.
There's 2 different chunks of rope there. So you've got your loop, put your fingers in, go down, all the way, pinch it, and then take this little part here, just pull it through. That's it, there's your little loop. That has not got to be easy in a person, that's impressive. You want to have Jimmy end?
You look, just for that.
Hey! Now, to extend your rope, here's your end. Here's your lark's head. You're going to take your end through the lark's head, and then you yank it tight. And you have extended your rope. It's almost like it's a magic trick.
Rope is magic when you don't think about it too hard.
Alright, so the half hitch, single column, and double column, everybody will be able to see while I'm tying up trees. It's a little bit easier to demonstrate those while we're actually doing the ties. Before I get into that, I have sources!
Yay! Always cite your projects.
So the attached are actually websites that I either subscribe to or have used to help come up with the information in this presentation, or be where you can actually get information from. Keep in mind, the last one, the tool shed, I actually recently added, and the reason I did is that's where I typically buy, if I don't go online, a lot of my rope. They're actually a local company in Milwaukee. It's kind of cool. So, should we go and sit on the other side?
Alright, good idea.
Oh, you know what we forgot to talk about?
What?
Safe word. How am I going to know if you're not having fun or having problems?
Well, I guess there's got to be a word.
Or I'm thinking we can use a couple words here.
I know the green light system.
I think that's an excellent idea.
So a lot of media likes to joke about the your safe word should be pineapple or something, like a word that you wouldn't say during sex. But that's not the best way to do a safe word. And a lot of people use the green light system. So if a dom can ask how you're doing, and you can say either green, which is you're doing fine, I'm not complaining. Yellow, which is ease up a little bit, I'm enjoying it, but you might be going a little too far. And red, which is I'm not a fan of this current situation.
So hopefully we're going to get lots of green. So. All right, so we go around the other side. So hopefully you guys will be able to see. At this point, anybody who has questions, let me know. Yes?
If you use different thicknesses of rope, what kind of effect, like different effects does it have when you're tying?
It actually can have some pretty interesting effects, because in fact, if we get to the black, you'll see that. I only have 2 hanks of the new red, which is a slightly thicker rope, which I really like. This is actually twisted monk rope even.
Ooh.
Yeah.
What type of rope would you recommend that people wear to get right? Like
Yeah.
what material?
There's a lot of personal preference for that. I happen to be a big fan of cotton rope. I do not usually prefer things like synthetic, even though I usually have a tendency to hand out paracord. I like to start people with paracord so they can try learning how to tie their knots, things like that. Because it's easy to untie.
Mm-hmm.
It's also cheap.
Yeah.
Some of you guys today actually received some clothesline ropes. Yep, that would be that. Again, it's a good starting point. It's not expensive. The thickness is good for basics and beginners. I really like my twisted monk. I also like this stuff, which is locally sourced in Milwaukee and locally dyed. It is just a simple cotton rope. I think this is 6 millimeter and this is 8 millimeter. So, and that'll also give you different things as well. So. Oh yeah, I'm gonna take your badge off.
Not a good idea. Make sure there's no dangly bits to get in the way.
Yes, but I have to figure out how I'm working around it. Kitties. We'll make it work.
The nubs.
At least it's not a giant tail.
No.
Just a little nub.
It is not a Shasta style tail. Alright. When I end up tying, I will end up folding my rope over. I don't like to go with pieces too long. I try to keep them around the 20 to 25 foot mark. I think the longest I usually go is 30 feet. Even that is sometimes a little crazy. It depends on the person you're also tying up. I'm going to start, I think, with like a real simple waist harness on you, and then we'll build from there. So I'm not going to have him lose any of his mobility. This does make things easier, so I don't have to worry about rope burns to do that.
I have padding.
Yay!
Let me know if it's too tight.
That's good.
All right, so what we've done here is I've just simply looped it through the bite. This will give me the option then to kind of tighten it as I go around. In this case here, let's go around one more time. So what I can do here is by, putting my finger here, I can create what's called a pulse bite, and I can loop my hair rope through here as well.
What does a false bite do?
In this case here, it is acting like it is a bite so that I can make adjustments to this so that I'm happy where it all lays and how it lays. This is a lot more difficult than I thought it would be.
Sorry.
It's all right. I'm greatly amused by this challenge. All right, you're okay with the harness through the legs, right?
Yep.
No happy knot?
You could do whatever.
Do I need to explain what a happy knot is?
Go for it.
No, seriously, do you guys actually know what a happy knot is?
We can take a guess,
No.
but you guys assume.
You could probably assume it.
Yeah, so in the case of going between the legs, you can place a knot in strategically located positions. In women, it would be further forward, in men, it would be further back. They're referred to as a happy knot as it would end up applying pressure into those happy places. So, this will be fun.
Somehow it makes sense.
This is, so your turn. So what we're going to do here is attempt to work around the tail. And I'm going to go underneath the wrapping that I have back here. One of the things that I try to do when I'm tying somebody who's not dressed or in a fursuit is to put my hand between the body and the rope. This is going to prevent rope burn. When you're pulling rope through quickly, it can actually heat up pretty fast.
Oh yeah. That's why if a rope is like sliding away with something heavy on it, do not grab it.
No.
It'll tear your skin off.
So to give you guys an idea, besides this, I also fly kites. You can imagine where that's going already. Yeah. There's a reason that certain kites I fly, I wear gloves. All right. So hopefully you guys can all see, I've got this through here. We're going to do a half hitch, which is simply just going to be to come around. And you can hold your tightness here with one hand. I'm going to go through there. That's going to give me this wonderful little loop to go through. And we're going to come back around. Now, anybody who's worried about not catching the half hitch there, don't worry, there'll be more. You okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Is this where I sit here and I go red, yellow, green?
Green.
All right. Normally, when I do this, I'd put in a second half hitch. I'm not sure if I'm able to put that in here. You know what? We'll figure something out. I like to do 2 half hitches because that way then it's going to prevent your rope from slipping. Basically, it's going to lock things in place. It's going to prevent things from moving. You can then go back, make adjustments to other things as needed. So, all right. Tails make things so much more interesting.
A challenge worthy of your skill.
Okay. Now I'm just going to make it look pretty. Let's see, how much can I let it go there? Not quite yet. This is the same pattern on the back. So. Yeah, let's just see if that'll work out. All right, so what I did on the other side, I just did a quick diamond pattern. kind of. And what we're going to do is we're going to repeat that on the other side here because symmetry is pretty. And so we're going to come around, and then to lock it kind of in place, it doesn't need to be completely locked in place because we've already got the harness part up here locked, and this part here is locked. So we're just putting a little bit more tension on this, and we're adding some design to it. To kind of keep it from shifting around too much, I'm just simply looping it back through and doing a little bit of a twist in the rope there. Like I said, tails make things so much more interesting in this case. One of the other things that you'll notice that I try to do as well is as I tie the knots, you'll see that when I twisted it, I came back down so that my rope comes in this down pattern. And that's just aesthetics more than anything. You don't have to do it that way. But keep in mind that when you start getting some of the bigger knots or you some thicker rope, sometimes that can cause a pinching area. So you do want to be a little bit careful, in that section. I have some leftover rope here to figure out what to do with in this case.
Aesthetic.
So what do you guys think?
Do more vertical. Work something vertically.
Oh, okay. We're getting arms. We're going to come off of the harness and go up, and that's when we're going to tie his arms up so we can't move.
Yay, now I figure out what to do with my hands.
Yes, get on my rope. So, alright, we're going to hit the back one more time.
Van away the whole process.
So then I can fill the pieces in the back, and then we can go from there. Now, this particular harness is more decorative than actually, useful to some degree. I mean, it can be used for things like a suspension harness if you wanted. I would make some modifications to it. I probably wouldn't use the thin ropes on the side. I would double that up in some way, shape, or form. So you want to have more support and more area if you're going to use it for suspension. But again, we aren't talking about suspension here. This is going to be interesting because you're a guy.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
Hey, let's be honest, the last time I did this, yeah, they were very excited. And it was very evident, even though they weren't exactly wearing clothing that should have made that evident. So.
What happens to the best of us?
Some design.
You want to talk about the one headspace you can get into?
So, with a lot of stuff like this, each person can have a different reaction when they get to a headspace. Now, me, honestly, I have issues flowing into headspaces, so I kind of just exist. But for people, some get really deep into it. I'm not the best for explaining it.
Both people.
Yeah,
It's not just for the person getting tied up.
The dom and the sub both can enter a headspace or have kind of a change of energy to them.
And I'm going to sit here and say it's top and bottom. Because you don't have to be a dom to be into this or to even try it. I'll be honest, I'm a switch, and I also much prefer, more of an equal type partnership. I actually find enjoyment in this because I think it looks pretty. I don't know, what do you guys think? Does the bottom part look pretty so far?
Yeah. In contrast to.
Yeah, that's what we were discussing. The contrast is like perfect.
All right. So what I'm going to do here is we're also going to go over a few safety items because one of these, the way I'm going to start this particular tie is I'm going to go up his chest and I'm going to go over his head. I'm going to take the bite through. I'm going to loop it through here. I'm going to pull it tight. Now, here's where we get into our overhand knot. I'm going to put a couple here. That's kind of the idea of my head wrap right there. See if it can work. Alright, so what I'm going to do here, before I put this over his head, is I'm going to put an overhand knot. Now, you're probably wondering, why I'm going to do this. And it'll make more sense when you see what I do in the back. But we're going to have another overhand knot directly on the other side. So, we're going to split the rope, go over the shoulders.
Do you need me to kneel down?
No, just turn. Don't slip on the rope. Still stepping on the rope.
Ah.
Alright, at this point in time, if I leave this as it is, if something slips in the front and I don't have anything to catch it one way or the other, he could choke. So this could be a choking hazard. To alleviate this, we are going to put another overhand knot. Now there is a knot on the front and the back of the neck. This way then there is no way that this rope is going to slip in any way, shape, or form. Go that route. Now, I think we need to make him immobile. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Alright, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start off with what's called a single column. I'm going to turn it into a double column. A single column is going to be any time you're tying, even just one limb or anything together. So basically, you start off. I'm going to go through again one more time. Just so you're right. You're going to help me out a little here, and if this is too tight, because I can't judge as well with your fursuit on.
You're doing it on the cuff, so it's actually really nice because it gives it that extra little pop.
Yeah, so I used to doing this a little tighter. So what we have here, even though I have both arms tied, and we're going to put a wonderful half hitch in here. No, I'm not going to go tighter because I can't judge.
Yeah, that's probably fine right there.
Okay. So if something's too tight, you definitely have to let me know at this point. But you're still green?
Yep.
All right.
So far, everything is not bad.
Okay. Alright, so we're going to tie that off. So at this point, it's just a single loop. There's nothing separating the two pieces. This would be a single column. You can also do a single column if you're going to do it off of a single arm. That could be a single column. We'll actually end up doing a single column here and a single column here in a minute. But we're going to turn this single column into a double column. Slightly too much. There we go. And sometimes it's just as simple as actually literally pulling a rope through to turn it into a double column. Still good?
So during this, as the bottom in the situation, it's always good to kind of wiggle just a little bit to kind of feel if you have enough space for blood flow.
Yeah.
If it's restricted to where you can't get a little bit of a wiggle to for anything, it's probably too tight. If you feel discomfort, if you feel an area going down.
The other thing that I'll end up doing is, in cases like the bands around the waist, I make sure I can fit 2 fingers between the body and the rope. If you can't fit at least 2 fingers, it's going to be too tight. You don't want to cut off circulation, you don't want to cut off blood flow. You also want to be careful as to pressure points, major arteries, things like that. There's like some wonderful arteries in the leg. You know, this area here you need to be careful of. You don't want to, you know, cut those off.
Or like you talked about before, the neck.
Well, yeah, that's why I started with the safety nuts in.
So you can already see the precautions you can take in each little bit.
You know, the other thing we didn't talk about?
What?
The safety scissors.
Oh yeah, those are probably a good one to talk about.
Yeah.
You want me to talk about it, or you got it?
Well, I'm going to show the example if you want to talk about them.
So, a good thing to have in any scenario where someone's getting tied up is an emergency escape. No matter what, if something's going wrong and you don't have time to untie all these things that, as you can see, are taking a while, they also take a while to undo by hand. And your partner's life is definitely more important than the rope you bought. So having scissors or something sharp to cut them off, and usually scissors because you want to be safe.
Please do not use a knife. I've had people sit there and say, oh, I've got a rope knife. No. You can still cut somebody with a rope knife. That is not good.
So yeah. Always keep something that is literally the emergency escape for your partner on hand during these scenarios. Know where it is, double check it before you start your scenario, everything.
Talking to mom being in the first stage, what the deciding for when tough situation here.
They would need to be communicating with you a lot better. So that would be something that the fursuiter needs to be constantly checking for and communicating with the down on something to the top.
You can use them. I don't usually go by down because that's not what I do.
Hey, back now.
You're late.
Our panel's not even for another hour. Fair enough. For anyone who doesn't know, after this we'll be doing Mystery Science Theater.
In here?
Yep. It is also 18 plus.
I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting to do this early in the evening. It was supposed to be later.
I mean, it's still dark out.
Yeah, true. But it's more of the I had AED responsibilities.
Yeah. As an event team person, I feel
I don't know, what do you guys think for that part? Maybe add a little bit of a diamond on the front? Let's see, how much time have we got here?
I can't tell. I watch it right now.
Oh, we have like 20 minutes. We're good.
Only 20.
No. Let's be careful. I'll sit here and make sure I check in enough. I end up losing my headspace.
I'll tell you if anything's wrong, don't worry. Now, for those of you who had interest in using different thickness of ropes, we are going to use a different thickness of rope here. All right, let's turn you around so we make the front look ready. All right. This is not as easy as it looks. A little bit. I mean, I've worked on people who are hairy, but this is like a new level.
It's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, there's hairy and there's furry.
Yeah. I think I realized this. Oh, I haven't been doing this for a while.
It's always good to learn something new. Listen, I can't do anything else. I just have to be witty.
Their commissions confirmed.
Oh, it's gonna be.
Yeah, it's going to be a while before it takes a while before they start taking again. Yes, but I love it.
So at this point here, I'm more or less just weaving rope through to make it look pretty. Most of this is decorative over functional.
It still feels good though, mind you. Like, if you're going for like touch and like just making it feel like there's more and more to it, some bottoms really like that. And same. So
Did I just learn something about you, Chewy?
you could have been happy at any point.
I know. That's not what I want to add that to my list of things to ask.
Because a lot of people, there are some who like simplistic, just some binding and the simple stuff. There's other people who like a lot. So like the full body where you feel every bit of you being unable to move. Like it's based on the person how heavy you should go with your bondage as well. Like rope play can be extremely basic or far more advanced depending on what the partner likes.
This is where things get really fun. The person who's tying, because I need to make adjustments for when I come to the other side. Now, one of the things I could do is I could just put in like a temporary knot here, or just tie it off, sort of. The whole thing's kind of in place to keep pressure on, and then I can go grab some more rope.
So how you guys doing?
All right, how about you?
Pretty good.
Good to hear.
Do this one backwards. Yeah, not bad. So anybody else got questions while we're doing this, or? At this point, it's just a matter of making it look pretty and trying to decide where I want to go with the rope.
Anyone getting some ideas from this plans later in your room?
Maybe.
Good. Practice makes perfect. Having someone to practice on makes it better.
Now, I'll be honest, Chewy, usually before I do this on somebody who I know has a partner of sorts, usually make sure that they make sure it's okay with their partner.
I did.
Oh. My partner's weird.
They'll find this amusing, especially the pictures.
I don't know, the last person I did this with didn't want pictures at all. I don't know.
Oh, I was like, we better have a little picture and shoot before we take this off. This is great. If we did, it's a work of art.
Yeah, but everybody wants the camera.
Really?
Post on your Twitter.
You know it.
Feel free to tag me. For those who don't know how to find me, Lost Disc for pretty much everything. I kid you not. Like, seriously. Anybody ever wanted to find me, I'm like the easiest person to find because I'm in all of my social media, everything.
I did the same thing. I unified all my stuff into just two.
Yeah, but I tried to actually buy lostdisc.com. I have lostdisc.net.
Listen, I wouldn't be surprised if Wimpletex bought myname.com. Like, I honestly wouldn't put it past them. So just one day where I asked, hey, what if I get my own username.com? And he's like, I already got it. It's already set up.
Let me check real quick for you.
Wimpletex, did you buy did you buy chewiescodes.com?
I'm unsure now.
I told you guys.
Wait. Wolfotech, did you snipe lostdisc.com for me? I'm not kidding. I was upset. I almost had lostdisc.com finally.
Good news, there's nothing you found.
He'll probably buy it after this con, man.
You know this is going to take a little while to get done, right?
Mm-hmm. That's kind of why I keep wiggling and checking if everything's okay. If it's okay, am I at a critical point? Nope,
I'm
good.
trying not keep it
Straight
to.
five.
Straight five.
I mean, some of this here I'm also not doing super tight. So,
Sometimes it doesn't need to be tight though, it just needs to be snug.
I think I've done pretty good at that part.
Feels good. It's the most important part.
What kind of muzzle on
You know, that's personal preference. I'm
Good personal preference, but it is personal preference.
I'm a bit of a brat tamer, and I really like, you know, my bottom to be able to talk. Especially if they want to say something sassy that gives me a reason to sometimes yank on their rope a little.
Yeah.
That's my personal
You tell me to poke fun at you?
I mean,
It's up to you. It's your personal preference.
I guess I can be a bit of a brat tamer. Don't get me wrong, I can also be my own little brat, but you know.
I mean, both are fun.
Oh yes.
So I don't know how much there is to be bratty about. You're actually doing something kind of difficult really well.
I got little tails off the end, but I'm gonna leave them. I think they look cute.
Little tassel.
All right.
If you were to tie an object to something,
Yes.
how, like what kind of knots would you use, or how would you like, secure it?
Very similar to what I did here on the arm. So I would actually, the object would be in here. You would actually do almost either a single or double column on it, where you would have the object next to the skin, and then you would actually wrap the rope around. So it would be a very similar option to that. For example, you have, I don't know, a chunk of bamboo, and you want to do something to that degree. Make sure that you're not cutting off circulation, you're not going under the armpits, you want to make sure you're going for like the biceps and for the forearms. Do not do it directly on the wrists. Either go above the wrists, which is better. Do not go directly on the wrists. Watch out for your pressure points. Pressure points, pressure point, pressure point.
Pick muscly sections.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
But what if they're not muscles?
Well, that's your
Where the
own
muscle should be.
Pick where muscle should be.
I bully you, but I'm tied up right now. So.
Which is really great because I can do this.
Just don't fall through a table.
Anybody else have questions?
So what if you want to go, what if someone wants to go down the legs and have like the feet tied together too?
It's a hog tie.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. You can actually do something very similar to what we did on the waist with the feet, or you can actually do something similar to what we did here on the arm cuffs. So basically by placing the legs together, you can do what's called a single column, wrap around them multiple times. Again, do not do it directly on the ankles. Make sure you go above the ankle. And more so here, your ankle is going to be a pressure point, especially with the Achilles. Be careful with the Achilles. Do not go too far into the kneecap area. You want to go below the knee. You also want to use it above the thigh or below the thigh. Again, yes, the meaty bits.
The best place to tie the meaty bits.
You know what's also fun? Somebody's got long hair, doing ties in with the hair.
Oh,
It's fun. I like doing that.
It's like a nice little rope. It's like a little rope.
You can feel it. Yeah. Anybody else?
you want to feel the rope? Come touch it.
Don't touch this rope now.
So this is, like I said, this is my twisted monk rope. I really, really like it. I only have 2 hanks of it so far, so I will probably own more as soon as I get my hands on it.
So don't run away.
Please don't. Maybe there's a reason I left the tails.
She has a leash on you.
I was gonna say, yeah, just leave them like that for us tonight.
No, I promise I'd untie it.
I have like two things I need to run today. Sadly.
I did make sure that you had your legs available.
Just have someone
That
carry
is
it.
true.
You said you was trying to do something like
Techno or technogram?
He's in the back.
When do I have to untie him?
I don't know. He's got legs, so he really doesn't need to be.
Not wrong.
Yeah, but you're also wearing a fur fursuit head, so...
True. Eventually I'll overheat, and then I'll die.
And we don't want that. This was too much fun.
Well, go outside. Come on.
For a little while, how's he gonna get water?
Straw.
Well, it is raining, so it's snowing.
Very careful. Straw in the mouth.
Oh, never mind. He has to wear.
I told you
You
I
should
had.
turn around though. This is back. Okay.
So what are some design styles that you like to do?
Everything for diamonds.
You think of diamonds?
I do like to do the diamonds. It also depends on the person that I'm working on and their body style. With women, I'll focus more on like a chest harness that's going to accentuate features, if you get what I mean by that. On men, I've also been known to do more with lower harnesses that will accentuate certain features. Sometimes also on women. I've done a set of stockings that come up the sides. Yeah, those are fun. That give you a lot of flexibility in what you wanted to do with them. Give you lots of grab points and tie points with the legs. I've done everything that's been simple and basic to some complex stuff. So I've gotten a lot more experience. People who've seen some of my work 2-3 years ago realize that it was.
Well, you practiced.
Yeah, I had a couple years worth of practice. I've been doing it for a lot longer than that, but I've at least come to the realization of, hey, I could yank on this, and here's how a better way to do this or to do that, and you learn. So, I've done like corsets too, where you basically you'll do something similar to like this piece here in the middle. You keep going back and forth. So you run out of rope or you add more rope. Those can actually be really hard. Anybody else have questions?
So I'm curious about this one. So when you're doing something like that, do you have to be very aware of the partner who's being tied up, like if they have any body piercings anywhere?
I guess if they were in weird spots,
Yeah.
but like most of your average piercings wouldn't be an issue. Like I guess like maybe nipple piercings.
I was just saying, because the guy with nipple piercings, it could slide him up.
Be careful or be wary of the happy knot on a woman who has a pierced lip.
Ooh, yeah. That's a good one.
I promise I don't speak from experience at all. Anybody else? So all I ask is that hopefully you guys all learned something here today. Yeah?
I'm not sure. Like, tied up.
Yeah. Come on, if you've been to anything I've ever talked at, you know.
Well, I've only been to like a couple of your panels. I've never heard about this.
We haven't got to the right conversation.
I actually sat up at the desk at one of your panels at 2019.
Is this how you do it?
Techno, you came late. We're going to have to teach you.
Damn it.
It's like an early introduction to like
All right. If there's no other questions, I will spend the rest of this time for the next panel untying this one.
high five.
Silver Gatoman, he bought me a coffee. Silver Gatoman, here is the song for thee. He likes to video all the panels at the cons. You should go and watch them whether they are short or long. Silver Gatoman, you video that's not a jibe. All of you go to his YouTube channel and like and subscribe.